Hello, I'm Evgeny Duda from a town called Lovnya. It's near Moscow in Russia, and I want to share some information and advices about cables. It's very important things around home studio and any studio, and I hope it will be useful for you. We could divide cables on a few types: audio cables and cables that transmit digital signal, mono and stereo cables, balanced and unbalanced cables. Let's talk about unbalanced ones. First, our professor told us about TS cables, or so-called instrument cables. This is audio mono and unbalanced cable with two conductors inside, signal and ground. This cable should be less length as possible because they are susceptible to noise very much. They are used mostly for guitars, keyboards, synth. What I can tell that one side TS cable can be used to connect mics. But there is a very important issue about it. Usually most of preamps in sound cards do not work if you connect TS cable to its input. As a result, you have less input volume and bad noise to signal level. I'll show you an example. I have normal XLR cable that usually used for mics and XLR to TS cable, which often sold with karaoke mics. As you see, I connect them in my sound card with the same input level. Now we take a look at the recording. Hello. As you see, signal level of the same mic is critically different when I use just different cables. Let's talk more about unbalanced cables. RCA is cable that used a lot in home audio, and pro equipment have possibility to connect consumer devices like CD, DVD, mini disc players, or in my case, speakers. I have very cheap setup at home. Each of connectors is mono and unbalanced, just like TC cables. If you are going to connect your player to pro equipment with adapter or cable RCA to TS, then you should remember advice of our tutor to be careful with that +4 -10 difference levels. Another unbalanced cable is 8-inch stereo cable, which is mostly used in consumer devices. Usually there is no such outputs and inputs in pro equipment, so we have to use adapters to connect them. Just remember that pro gear does not have stereo inputs in 1/4-inch format, usually. So if you are connecting your player to mixing or sound card, use a cable like this. And remember about levels. So let's talk about balanced cables. Balanced cables are basically stereo unbalanced cables, which transmits mono signal. Audio signal is doubled into conductors, but one of signal is inverted. Noise coming from outside is the same in these two lines. When signal reach sound card, for example, it sums two signals to mono. By that, they become louder and noise is cancelling. I put a link in the text below this video with a good short video about what is inverting signal is. So two most common balanced cables is 1/4-inch stereo cable and XLR. 1/4-inch stereo cable is known as TRS. They are used to connect most pro audio gear sound cards, monitors, compressors, analog and digital effects processors, and also headphones, as we remember. XLR cables, mostly used for mics, and on stage and studio long-run connections. Good example is multi-core XLR connectors and patch XLR connections. As you remember, you can use device called direct box to convert signal from unbalanced to balanced and have less problem with the noise. These devices take signal from TS format cable, double it and send it to XLR output. Few words about cables that transmit digital signal. Most common are USB and FireWire, which transmit digital information between your sound card and computer. They should be quite short and well made, otherwise you'll experience disconnection of sound card or clip at recordings. It could be a problem of computer, but choosing the right one is a different topic. SPDIF cables can be used to connect mixing consoles, for example, and sound cards. As I said before, this is usual mono RCA cable, used for such manipulation. Well, I hope I covered most of questions about topic and had some useful information for you. Thank you for listening.